a malfunction during the test, then it's not used.
Okay, but what if it's within the threshold of the 1 plus or minus from 65 on, and the second tuning fork is 100, right? Something like that?
You know your tuning forks, what they are test at?
65 and 45.
Okay, so do you note whether it is 64 and 44 or 66 and 46? Do you note that somewhere?
If there's any discrepancies in the test that shows that it's not working properly, it's not used.
Okay, but is there or is there not a 1 plus or minus threshold that it's acceptable?
Objection, she's already testified multiple times. It either meets the standard or it's not used.
The objection is overruled. His question is there a threshold of error plus or minus 1 mile per hour from your tuning forks that you are still allowed to proceed and use those forks and the radar device?
No, they give the same reading. However, for a stop, there could be a 1 mile an hour grace. So you could be traveling 1 mile an hour faster. You could be traveling 1 mile an hour slower.
Okay, and your testimony is that it was 85 miles an hour. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Did you not, you didn't tell the defendant anything different when you walked up to his window? Is that correct?
Different from, different, what do you mean?
You didn't inflate that number when you walked up to the defendant's window out there on the road?
No.
You did not?
No.
Okay. And I would specifically like you to describe the item which you saw inside of the glove box to initiate the search.
I would have to refer to the evidence log for that.
Wouldn't your report have been better? Wouldn't your report have noted where you found it, what it looked like, where it was, what condition it was in?
Objection, Your Honor. Now he's asking the witness to speculate.
Well, at this point, the objection's overruled. Trooper, you don't have any logs or reports available to refer to today, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So you're testifying from your memory and recollection, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. He asked you to describe, to the best you can, the item that you observed in the glove compartment. Can you try to do that? And if you don't recall, you don't recall.
I don't recall what specific item was in the glove compartment, just that there was an item. There were several items found in the vehicle.
And did you notice any other items or any other habits that the defendant had while we were on the side of the road and you were searching his vehicle for 45 minutes?
What do you mean by habits?
I mean, did he drink a bunch of coffee, or did he smoke some cigarettes, or did you notice any of those things?
I don't know. I can't say. I don't.
I guess where I'm going with it is if the defendant had pipe tobacco in his car and you observed a pipe and you can't describe it and the black residue inside of it could have been nicotine, did you test it before you did a search?
So, if think what you're asking me is if I see something that I believe to be paraphernalia, that would be reasonable suspicion enough for me to be able to investigate further.
Okay, but innocuous behavior is not suspicious enough. It doesn't meet the requirement. It's innocuous for me to smoke a pipe and have pipe tobacco, is it not?
That's paraphernalia is only paraphernalia if there are illegal substances used in it.
Okay, so through your observations through the window, did you come to any other conclusions, or do you have any other reason other than seeing a pipe that might be innocuous to initiate a search? Any other observations?
Your Honor, I'd object to this. That's been asked and answered I don't know how many times already.
How so, sir?
Just wait, Mr. Lyons. The objection's overruled. The question was, and I think you've answered, but let's clarify. The item you observed in the glove compartment, which you can't recall specifically, was that the reason then you initiated the search of the rest of the vehicle? What you saw in the glove compartment?
Yes.
Okay, and just that alone, is that right? No smells, no observation of leafy green crumbles on the floor, nothing else?
Oh, there were other observations made.
Okay. What were those observations?
So we call that the totality of circumstances. So there are other factors that we take into consideration, which would be normal or abnormal behavior.
Okay. And what was this abnormal behavior you were speaking of?
So the item that I saw in the glove compartment is consistent with other items of paraphernalia. So that was reasonable suspicion to investigate further. Now, the other observations I made, I came up to the vehicle and I explained to you that I was stopping you and I was going to be issuing you a warning. I asked for documentation and you were uncooperative at that point, and in my experience, that is not typical of somebody that is just maybe speeding or following too closely.
Okay. And in this interchange, was there any threats or violent behavior or anything else that could lead you to believe, besides someone standing up for their rights, make you believe that that was not reasonable? Was there anything done besides standing up for the defendant standing up for his rights, to make you believe that it was suspicious? Anything else? Any smells? Anything else? You didn't observe anything beyond weird behavior and a pipe that could be for pipe tobacco?
So when I came back to my vehicle to ask for or request backup, you blared your music really loud, and just in my experience, it was escalating to what could be potentially violent. Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, sure. But I would ask, what law is, or what crime is playing your music too loud while waiting for the police?
It's not a crime. It's just an observation. It's a indication to me that
How so?
things are escalating.
How so? How is that? How so? How does that make you feel that that's escalating the situation?
Because it's not typical behavior for somebody to not comply when you're going to be writing them a warning. I wanted you to get on your way faster than you probably wanted to. But at that point, I have a job to do, and I needed to.
Okay.
do
Yeah,
that job.
I don't need you to testify. I just need you to answer questions. That's all. Wall. You initiated the traffic stop alone. Is that correct?
Correct.
And how many officers showed up to assist you once you perceived a threat?
Your Honor, I'd object to this question. It's totally irrelevant to the two charges here.
No, that objection is sustained. Let's focus on the charges that are pending.
Oh,
'Cause
no.
the number of officers that arrived is not
Fruit of the
relevant to
poison tree.
charges. Sorry?
It's fruit of the poison tree. This all stems from the initiation of force by her. So it is a completely, totally relevant to what we're talking about. If 4 guys with guns and army gear didn't show up at my truck, I wouldn't have got out. No way. No way. That's duress.
I understand what you're saying. Move on to your next question, please.
Okay. Please name all of the officers that showed up to your call.
No, the witness is not required to answer that.
Why?
I said move on. It's irrelevant how many officers were there or who they were. I understand your argument that you wouldn't have gotten out of the vehicle if other officers wouldn't have been there. But that's not relevant to the 2 charges we're having a trial on today. Let's focus on the 2 charges. You asked very relevant questions about the speeding. You asked very relevant questions about the observations of any paraphernalia. Those are good questions. But let's focus on the 2 things that you're charged with.
Yes, sir. Can you please describe the vehicle that you say I was tailgate? Is that the term for it, or is that what's the law? Following too closely?
Following too close.
Yeah. Can you please describe the vehicle that I was following too closely?
It was a camper trailer. That's all I can describe to you.
Okay. Well, that's a really big spectrum. A camper trailer ranges from the kind you put in the back of a truck to the giant land barges that they tow around with 5th wheels. So can you please describe it to me?
Your Honor, I'd object to that line. That's totally irrelevant.
How is it
Close is
irrelevant?
too close, regardless of what it is.
And too close is subjective.
All right. First, the objection sustained. If you want to ask questions about how close is too close or those type of things, that would be relevant. But more specifics on which type of vehicle, when we've already learned she doesn't have a report and doesn't have all those details, is not something that's going to be helpful. If you want to ask a question about the following too close, you're
Okay.
welcome to do that.
Okay. When you made this observation, where were you?
In the crossover.
You were in the crossover?
Yes.
That's your statement. That I was following him at 85 miles an hour too closely for how long?
I'd object. The length of time is not relevant either.
No, it's overruled. She can attempt to answer if she can recall.
Specific time frame, I can't tell you. I can't testify to a specific seconds or minutes or anything like that.
This is why a report would be